So CRS, Catholic Relief Services. The first video talks a little about it. I've been involved with Catholic Relief Services for probably, I don't know, about 8, 9 years. I used to work as a speaker for Food for the Poor, and I just got a little, I took a break from them. Let's put it that way. I took a break from them, and I wanted to get involved with something that was a little more closely related to the church. And so I found out about Catholic Relief Services, and I found out that what they do and their modus operandi is different than organizations like, you know, Food for the Poor or Cross International or Save the Children or any of those sort of groups. So I thought I'd share. I don't know how well that's known among people, and share a little background. Now this first video I'm going to share with you is a little, it's about 10 years old, but it's probably the best one that explains how CRS works and its rationale. Now, a lot of people don't know that CRS is actually the formal international humanitarian arm of the U.S. bishops. And back during the abuse scandals, I used to say this is one of the good things that the bishops are doing these days, you know, and that we can be really proud of no matter what else. And a lot of people don't know that it's directly related to the U.S. bishops. Catholic Charities would be the analog for domestic outreach, and Caritas International is the I don't want to say the shell, but it's the organization that works, is the name of CRS in other countries. So, so if you hear about Caritas, that's related very, very closely with CRS. So let's get started with this this little video, and patience with me for let's see, I have to share screen, and we'll go to this. Let me turn off your pictures a little. Okay, so I entitled this, "Where the Heck in the World is East Timor?" And actually, I mentioned this at the Priory tonight, and one of the people that went with me to East Timor, because I've been there, is Father Samuel, our vocation director. And so it was great. He says, "I know where it is." Yeah, because we had to, but we'll talk more about that near the end. So Catholic Relief Services, here's a program. Now, let me know or let Francine know, because she knows how to manage this better than I do, if you're having a problem hearing or seeing this video, okay?
Miracles, little miracles are happening around the world every day. Thanks to the grace of God, the generosity of compassionate Americans, and the work of a very special agency, each little miracle is worth celebrating.
Is everybody hearing all right?
Catholic Relief Services has been rushing help and inspiring hope for more than 65 years. Started by Catholics to bring relief to the refugees of World War II, CRS remains the international humanitarian agency of the Catholic community in the United States. We are devoted to embracing God's poorest, most vulnerable people around the world. CRS provides life-saving food, shelter, and medicine to people in great need, regardless of their race, religion, or nationality. We respond in times of emergency, both natural and man-made. But more than that, CRS is committed to breaking the cycle of poverty itself by meeting the long-term needs of families and communities alike. Simple but essential basics like clean water, sustainable agriculture, education, and livelihoods all add up to self-sufficient, thriving communities. Today, Catholic Relief Services touches nearly 130 million lives in more than 100 countries. How does Catholic Relief Services meet these seemingly overwhelming challenges? Well, our remarkable effectiveness and efficiency all come down to two big factors. First and foremost, CRS is continually supported by the generosity of donors all over the United States. Your commitment to help our brothers and sisters overseas is what makes our work possible. And that is why we work hard to be good stewards of the resources entrusted to us. More than 90% of all CRS expenditures go directly to programs that benefit the poor overseas. And the second key to our success can be found in our partnerships.
Partners are absolutely critical to the work we do. And one of the strengths that CRS has, and a strength that's being consistently recognized by the different donors that we work with, is the partners that we have. These partners have access to the communities. They know more than anybody else the needs of those communities. They work with them on a daily basis. They work with the local government structures, and that facilitates the work that we're able to do and the support that we're able to provide them.
In Afghanistan, CRS supports a wide variety of local partners so we can reach the most vulnerable communities. Since 2003, CRS has been working with local partners in both rural and urban areas to open schools for girls and women who have found the rights and opportunities for an education so elusive.
And after 30 years of conflict, education infrastructure has been largely destroyed. People have been displaced a number of times over that time period. So there are several generations of Afghans who have had limited or no access to education in their lifetimes. And so there's now this incredible hunger, this incredible commitment amongst Afghans to get their boys and their girls educated so that their children have the opportunities that they never had to contribute to kind of the rebuilding of the country.
CRS supports the Afghanistan National Association of the Deaf, so children who might otherwise be forgotten can learn, grow, and play an active role in the reconstruction of their country. Children now have a joyful place to study and communicate. CRS has a long history of helping people pick up the pieces despite great odds. Created in 1943 as War Relief Services, every day Catholics across America gave thousands of Polish refugees a new home and a new life in Mexico. Since then, we have helped millions during calamities like famine, earthquakes, floods, and war. But along the way, we began to realize that we are called to do more than save lives. We also must help people get back on their feet, help communities sustain themselves, and build a better life for their children. After Hurricane Mitch slammed into Central America in 1998, CRS formalized our three-part strategy of emergency response. First, we save lives and provide necessities. Second, we create opportunities for jobs, schools, and the rhythms of life to resume. And third, we help communities rebuild the foundation for a bright future. This strategy was at the heart of our 5-year response to the devastating Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004 and the catastrophic 2010 earthquake in Haiti. Through it all, CRS can do all this because of the generosity and compassion of our donors. CRS donors help us care for vulnerable people when the only emergency is their daily struggle for food and shelter, clean water, basic health care, and education. This is a daily crucible for millions of people overseas.
One of the general ways in which Catholic Relief Services approaches the work of development and the work of relief that we do is to understand it in the context of integral human development. It's a term that comes out of Catholic social teaching that helps us to understand the individual as a holistic being, someone with not just one particular asset or characteristic, but someone that has multiple characteristics and assets.
Catholic Relief Services approaches emergency relief and long-term care holistically, ensuring all people are able to participate in the very fullness of life. One of our highest priorities is to respond to the suffering caused by HIV and AIDS. CRS helps those living with the disease to care for themselves and others through a comprehensive continuum of care, from initial testing to antiretroviral therapy to home-based and palliative care. With a combination of these components, thousands of people are able to return to a normal life. In Zambia, one of these people is an inspiring woman named Tinta Kalenga. She's able to go to work every day and also counsels other patients struggling with HIV to get back on their feet.
Before treatment, I was very sick, in out from hospital, 1 week home, 2 weeks in hospital, like that. But now I'm all right. I'm fit. I'm able to go to do my business. So when I was sick, I couldn't manage to do that. But now I'm able to do my hard work. Yes.
From family dinner tables to church pews, millions of compassionate Catholics in all 50 states are living their faith by participating in CRS programs like Operation Rice Bowl to assist our brothers and sisters overseas through the Lenten traditions of praying, fasting, learning, and giving. Many Americans also make a real positive difference by choosing to buy fair trade products through the CRS Fair Trade Network. By shopping for fair trade crafts, coffee, and chocolate, people make a strong connection with hardworking and disadvantaged workers around the world. Our CRS Fair Trade Network guarantees fair wages to these artisans, farmers, and workers. It also provides the technical and financial assistance that are so rarely available in the conventional trading system. Catholic Relief Services backs up its humanitarian relief overseas with a strong advocacy here at home to address the root causes of poverty. Inspired by Catholic social teaching, CRS engages Americans to examine issues that dramatically affect the well-being of poor and vulnerable people worldwide. We invite Catholics to pray, learn, act, and give in support of our gospel mission.
I think CRS's work is very important because not only does it raise awareness and help poverty-stricken areas and help those who are in situations where they need help and they don't know where to turn to, there's a lot going on in this world that isn't necessarily just, and I'm glad that CRS is there to help show examples of where there can be improvements and where we need work.
When people find out what Catholic Relief Services does every day to alleviate human suffering for millions of people around the world, they realize they want to be part of it. The prayers and generosity of the faithful in the United States touch the lives of millions of people like Doreen from Uganda. She was an orphan. Today, she is a teacher, thanks to the support of CRS.
The people of the United States of America and the Catholic Relief Services with its donors, they didn't quit. They said we have to do something about this problem. You put a hope and it grew. There was a light in my life and it shines. I want to say that you people, you are our heroes. You have done it all. You are our stars.
Yes, you are the stars to millions of people around the world. For CRS, you are performing little miracles. Come join us and see just how far your heart can reach. For more information about Catholic Relief Services.
So, anyway, that's a little introduction that some of you might have known a lot about. It was nice to see the fair trade. That looked very familiar. Back in the days when we'd have it actually in person. But thanks to Marie and Doug and Mary Alice and everybody who helps with that. It's still going on, and I think most of the people that are here know that. So I just want to highlight two things that were said near the beginning that I think makes CRS different, and that is, well, the one thing anyway that's really special is that they're working with partners. It's not going in and doing, building a house and putting people out of work in the local community. It's working with partners who are already there and who know the community and know their needs and know the people. And CRS is there as sort of a, maybe a hand up, but not doing the work directly. And I was really impressed with that when I saw that. The other thing is that CRS responds very quickly. My DRE over at Holy Rosary, where I was before I was at St. Dominic's, was from Ecuador, and he gave amazing testimony by saying, I remember during one of the earthquakes, and the first people that were there were CRS in Ecuador. They were boots on the ground before a lot of the other aid agencies began to work. And so he was like, yeah, I'm all for CRS. So that was a big and important testimony. Now, let's get the title of this presentation is, where the heck is East Timor? So for those, let me back up. By the way, this is my East Timorese flag. East Timor was one of the newest countries, as you'll hear in this next little video, which isn't quite, that video was the longest. The other are little, and they're geared toward shorter attention span. It might seem a little childish, but it's actually got good material in it. So you might enjoy it, and you might not. So let's take a look and move around to East Timor.
Hi, I'm Olivia the Owl. I'm super excited to have you join me on a trip around the world. Ready to fly? Let's go. Let's see, fly south of Vietnam, turn east at Jakarta. Well, I'll be. Here it is. Today we're visiting Timor Leste, one of the world's newest countries. It's only 18 years old. That's young for a country. The United States is 244. Timor Leste gained its independence from Indonesia and became a country in 2002. Located in Southeast Asia, north of Australia, Timor Leste is an island country, just like Madagascar. So ilohalo no benvedo ihat Timor Leste. That's hello and welcome to Timor Leste in Tetun, one of the official languages of the country. Although Timor Leste is very small, the landscape includes beautiful beaches and rugged mountains. Farming can be challenging here, especially in the small communities high up in the mountains. Sometimes there's so much rain that the fields flood and the crops are washed away. Other times the rain doesn't fall at all and the crops cannot grow. Because of the weather, families often don't have nutritious food like fruit and vegetables to eat, and children experience something called stunting, which means they aren't able to grow as big and strong as they should. Healthy food helps make healthy children like Sandra. With the support of Catholic Relief Services, Sandra's parents, Eliza and Polino, are building special gardens that protect crops from floods and droughts. Eliza also keeps chickens and plants leafy green vegetables like kangkong, pak choy, and amaranth, which are full of vitamins and are easy to grow. I've never had kangkong, have you? I wonder what it tastes like. Now, Sandra's family has a good variety of foods to mix with the rice they eat every day. Other families in the community are also planting gardens, and some have even begun digging fish ponds, so they will be able to add tilapia to their diet. That's a kind of fish. Eliza is pleased with her new garden. She says she knows the vegetables help her children grow strong, and that makes her feel happy. We make Jesus happy when we support others, whether they're in our community or halfway around the world. In the gospel, Jesus reminds us that whenever you help anyone in need, you are helping him too. CRS Rice Bowl is our way to follow Jesus' example and answer his call to care for others. Thank you for flying with me on this Lenten journey. Visit the CRS Rice Bowl website to learn how to turn in your rice bowl. I will be seeing you.
Okay, so now we'll get into the more specifics about what is actually going on in East Timor now. I'd like to mention a couple projects that I saw. Actually just one for the sake of time. One project I thought was just amazing. There were this little village, and they were raising corn, and they'd store it, but the rats would end up eating about a third of it. And so CRS came in and worked with some of the community leaders to find out what the issue was. And they said, well, they just can't ever get to self-sufficiency because the rats eat all this grain. And so CRS helped the people to find these polystyrene containers, and that I think is polystyrene or some sort of plastic that protected their rice. And when we were visiting there, it was one of the first years that they actually had a surplus of grain, of corn for their kids and for their families. So, that's a lot better than just coming in and spraying rat spray all over the place, which would be probably most of our solution to a rat issue. So so let's look a little more specifically at what's going on in East Timor. By the way, they have great coffee there, and you'll see some pictures later on.
Hi, I'm Olivia the Owl. I'm super excited to have you join me on a trip around the world. We'll visit 3 countries and learn how our prayers and sacrifices during Lent make a difference in the lives of others. Ready to fly? Let's go. Our first stop is the 2nd largest island country in the world, Madagascar. This country is home to amazing wildlife, including lemurs, chameleons, and other animals you may not have heard of. 6 kinds of owls live here. Who knew? Madagascar is very beautiful, but many families here suffer from malnutrition. This means that the food available to them doesn't always have the vitamins and minerals needed to keep all family members, especially small children, healthy. We all need a variety of nutritious food in order to grow, and CRS is using puppet shows as a fun way to introduce families to eating a rainbow of fruits and vegetables at mealtime. Next, we'll wing it to the smallest country in Central America, El Salvador. Did you know that El Salvador has more than 20 volcanoes? 2 of them are still active, so we'll be extra careful. In El Salvador, changes in weather patterns are making it hard for farmers to have successful harvests. But with the help of CRS, young people are learning how to keep the soil healthy, so the crops stay healthy too. Our last stop is Timor Leste. Some say this Southeast Asian country is shaped like a crocodile. What do you think? Timor Leste is just one country in our world where people sometimes don't have enough to eat. In fact, 1 out of 10 people worldwide go hungry each day. Families in Timor Leste are finding more ways to produce different kinds of food to feed their communities, from planting gardens to digging fish ponds. Jesus teaches us that when we help our sisters and brothers around the world, we're helping him too. CRS Rice Bowl is our way to follow Jesus' example and answer his call to care. Over the 40 days of Lent, as we learn how families and communities discover ways to lead healthier lives, let's remind ourselves how we can do our part.
So, the three countries that are featured on the rice bowls, as I think you all know, is Madagascar, El Salvador, and how many of you have tried any of the recipes? Okay, no, not yet. Some families have tried pupusas. They've actually made pupusas, and the recipes are there. Waldemar's wife made a couple of dishes. She made this dish from Madagascar that is just, it's amazing. It's greens and rice. Sounds pretty simple. It is pretty simple, but it's really delicious. And then in the refrigerator right now, we have the dish from Timor Leste, which he said, well, anyway, it's maybe it didn't meet with the same reviews as the Madagascar and the pupusas, but anyway, so try it out. It doesn't have to be Lent. It could be any time to just have a simple, nutritious meal. Let me go back to, first of all, are there any questions so far? I don't have any more videos, so just so that you know that. And I apologize if it seems like it was talking down, but it gave, I thought the videos gave good basic information that for a lot of us who might not have known anything about these countries or anything. Anybody have any questions? And I'm not exactly, maybe in the chat. If you want to chat, or Francine, are you still there?
I am. You can unmute yourself if you'd like, or I can unmute everyone.
I can unmute people. How do I do that?
I can do it. I mean, people can unmute themselves. So.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
So
if you have a question, go ahead and ask it.
So East Timor is part of the island that used to be called Java?
No, it's about an hour plane trip from Java.
Okay.
When we went there, we flew on an Airbus 380, the two level plane, and it was the longest flight I've ever been on. It was close to 24 hours.
Oh my.
It was long, and we went from Frankfurt to Singapore, then Singapore to Bali. We spent the night in Bali, which is on Java, and actually it's Denpasar, which is in Bali, and then we flew to East Timor. East Timor, like I said, or like the owl said, is 18 years old, and it was after a bloody war with Indonesia. Our CRS guide, who was an East Timoran, or Timor Leste is Portuguese for East Timor. So that's why it's in the video is called Timor Leste, which is actually what they would call themselves. So he was actually a soldier. He was a soldier and was captured, and by the Indonesians. Two of his neighbors were murdered, and he managed to escape. It was just was just a brutal sort of story. The East Timor Leste is the only Christian, is the Christian part of Indonesia, and that's one of the reasons why they separated, because Indonesia is primarily Muslim. So Muslim, or I think it's Muslim, yeah.
Yeah, they're Muslim.
And so they're just getting off their feet. When we were there in 2012, the UN Blue Hats were still around. And so at the airport, it was surrounded by the UN peacemakers. So it's relatively recent. It started as a Portuguese colony, and the first missionaries there were Dominicans.
Huh.
I went there, and none of us knew this until we got there. I went there with Father Samuel, Vincent didn't go, but it was his class. James Peter Trares, Raphael Christensen, Joe Trout, that class, for those of you that have been around, you know that class. So those were the 4 that went with me as part of the delegation from CRS to sort of see what was going on there. So I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yes, and I know that the war between them was really bloody. But have they recovered somewhat from that? Do you know?
Well, I think so. Part of what their hope is that they have these oil reserves in the Timor Sea, which is between them and Australia. And when we were there, they were in negotiations for how to actually, how to negotiate these oil fields, which would provide some funding, at least temporarily. It's sort of like, it provides some temporary funding to help the country work on infrastructure, which is it has some of the worst infrastructure of any country I've ever been in, and all through South America. The Timor Leste was much worse, the roads and everything. So
okay.
I haven't heard lately, but I haven't heard that they're having problems either. Any other questions before we go to the last part here, which is maybe a little more personal. So, well, let's do that. What do you say? So anyway, when here's, you can see James Peter and Joe Trout. We arrived, and we went, the first places we went was this little village up in the coffee, right on the Indonesian border, really, in the coffee growing region. And I just am being covered with goosebumps right now as I recall, being there on Pentecost Sunday in this church that they are working on. This is the whole community coming from church, and Mass was celebrated in a couple different languages. The music was amazing, and there was this amazing fog that just surrounded the area, giving it an ethereal and mystical sort of sense. Father Samuel, I was at his first Mass down in Albuquerque, and he referred to that. He said it was just, here we were on the Feast of Pentecost, and here was this great experience of different cultures coming together and all being one, and through the Eucharist, with this one sense of who we were as church. And even though we were just very different looking, it was just a powerful experience. And then we all walked down the road, walked down this little peak, and it cleared up a little bit. And you see over here, they had a little celebration for us. And so they had dancing and music, and then they had a feast. And so we had just an amazing, I mean, you can see this over here is one of the deacons of the area pouring us coffee. This is a coffee plantation here in the background, and they just put on the what's the expression? They just really put out a great feast for us. And but we found out later that one of the items was actually dog, which was in a kebab. It was, I probably thought it was beef. So anyway, that was just an odd sort of thing. We visited these people, and then in the course of our time there, we went to the east part of the island, and we went over the spine of the mountain to the side that faces Australia, and we looked at different projects, and it was just an amazing experience. It's a beautiful country. And then, like I said, it's Christian, and so we had there sort of a mixture of this statue of Jesus over the whole world, and then this sort of Indonesian-looking, this is at the airport actually, structure that I just found intriguing, and sort of shows the difference of cultures, the reaching out and to embrace two different cultures. And then this was up by at the base of this Christ statue is where one of the guides who was helping us and his kids were. And as you can see, this is looking out into the Timor Sea.
Beautiful.
And I have to say, it was a blessed experience for me to be able to do that. I wasn't somebody who thought CRS Rice Bowl was anything worthwhile. I just thought it was sort of gimmicky. And back when it was called Operation Rice Bowl, you remember that? And I've since become quite convinced that this is the way to go to really help build peace and to reach out. And the two, our part is essential. We make CRS work so that CRS can bring hope and competence and success to the different peoples of the world. There's I loved the little puppet show. Did you catch that? He talked about rainbow foods. Well, rainbow foods means that you don't just have rice on your plate. You have something that's yellow, something that's green, something that's blue, something that's red. And trying to get kids to get used to eating something more than just rice, which can give some of them that disease. I can't remember what it's called when you're just eating rice, but it's not good for you. You can get sort of overwhelmed when you look at the figures that there's 690 million hungry people in the world. That's 1 in 9. So, here we are, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 2, can you imagine just of this little group, that would be 2 who just don't have enough to eat today. I remember the story of a CRS volunteer. There was a food program going on to help these in this hunger area that was being overcome by famine, and there was a little boy sitting off on the side, and they said, well, come, and get something to eat. This is, you can get, we'll give you a plate and give you something to eat. And he says, no, today's Thursday. And they said, well, what do you mean today's Thursday? No, I don't eat on Thursdays. In our family, we have to take turns eating, and Thursday is my day not to eat. So, wow, that just blew me away. And that's the reality in a lot of the world, especially Asia and sub-Saharan Africa. So this isn't a guilt thing, but it's actually, I think of this as a rejoicing that the Catholic Church is actually doing something very practical and helpful to put into practice Matthew 25. And I'm grateful for all of you that have participated in CRS Rice Bowl, especially this year, and the last year too, probably. For most of you, you strike me as the type that probably participated last year too. And I'm grateful for that. And there's a lot of kids and a lot of families that are grateful for your participation in doing that. The other thing that needs to be mentioned, I think, before we end here, is that with the rice bowls, well, what do you do with the rice bowls? Well, we're going to collect them this weekend. For those of you that weren't at Mass, we're going to collect the rice bowls this weekend. You can bring the physical bowls to the church if you'd like, and put them in the white containers that we have, and that becomes a part of our celebration of what we're offering back as we remember the Passion of the Lord. Another option is that you can just write a check. Maybe put it in an envelope. If you're coming to church, you can just put it in the bin along with the rice bowls. You can just take what you saved out and write a check for that amount, made out to St. Dominic's Church with the memo CRS Rice Bowl. And you can come and just drop that in the container as well. The other option is to do that second thing, but just mail it to us. But make the check out to St. Dominic Church and CRS Rice Bowl with the memo. So so we're going to collect that, and that's going to become part of our reflection of as we come to the end of Lent and place what we have. Who was it? Somebody said, and of course the problem is I didn't write it down, that stewardship is not well, I don't know. I have it in another notebook. I wasn't going to mention it tonight, so I might as well just pass over it. But it's basically our way of saying thank you to God for what God's given us. And CRS Rice Bowl, donations to Christ in the City are ways of accomplishing that. What I was going to say is 25% of what we collect actually gets returned to the Archdiocese of Denver for their outreach to local nonprofits, local agencies helping the needy. So anyway, that's a little on rights. But does anybody have any questions about CRS, about St. Dominic's, about Timor Leste? You know, if you go online, and I will say this, that this is and you're probably not the ones, but there's CRS has been under attack for a long time by some very right-wing groups. In fact, if you go on YouTube and look up CRS, you'll find something, a very, you know, a professional-looking website that talks about CRS, but talking about how CRS is funding abortions and contraception, and it's through the Lepanto Institute, which is well, I don't know much about it, except that it's a right-wing institute. And so CRS, has to divert resources to countering these attacks that continually are found to be unproven, but it's just because this seems so I don't know why, but for some reason that's been happening. So if you go on YouTube and you look at CRS, you'll see, I started watching it and I said, oh, I don't remember this guy. And then all of a sudden I found out that it's really this Lepanto Institute talking about the abortions and immoral things that CRS is supposedly involved with. So just so that you know that that's out there, and it's been like a fly in the ointment, if you will, to the good work that CRS has been doing these years. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So is CRS in Timor, I guess it's Timor Leste, are they permanently based there, or they kind of go in and out as needed?
No, they have a permanent base. In the 100 countries, they have offices and people there, just like the Peace Corps would, I guess, or Caritas, you know, because they're not going to go away unless there's I suppose if there was a lot, you know, if it was just dangerous or too violent, they might, but I haven't heard of any situations of that. They're there. They have a permanent office. It's not very sophisticated, but it's there. At least it wasn't when we were there, which was pretty much at the beginning of, you know, the 2012 was already 9 years ago. So.
So one of the great things about CRS is what you've already said, is they're partnering with local people. So that's why they have a local presence that's always there. And that's been their way of operation for their whole existence. And the other thing is that they are, I think, on Charity Navigator. I mean, they have the highest rating that you can get on Charity Navigator, and which means that a very small percentage of the donations go to things other than the projects. And so they're, you know, they do the rice bowls and they do posters and things like that, but that's a very small percentage of their budget.
And you know, what you just said reminded me of why CRS is attacked, because they work with partnering with local groups.
Yeah.
And so maybe a local group might be doing something that we might not agree with, but it's not CRS, it's maybe the local group, and CRS tries to vet these partnerships, but I seem to remember hearing about that part of the issue is, they work with these groups of local people, and they may be Catholic, they may not, but it's the overriding purpose is to help the poor, the hungry, the needy, and so that's where some of the criticism may fall.
And yeah, and that's where a lot of the criticism has been, is that they're working with non-Catholic groups. Well, a large part of the world is not Catholic.
Right. Anything else? We're at about an hour. Yeah, Mary. Oh, I'm mute. Yeah.
I have another one. So this was 2012. I was just wondering, were you connected at all when you were there? Like, did you have a phone? Did you have a computer? Or were you completely not connected, almost in another kind of world from what we live in today? And what was that like?
Huh. Let's see. Did I have a cell phone?
It's just hard to avoid news. I mean, here, news, traffic, all the things that can distract you from focusing on the really important stuff, like relationships with people. And
yeah, I think we had we did have access to computers to check emails and stuff on occasion, but it was a lot less frequent than it is here. And I don't think anybody had cell phones, 2012, they weren't quite as ubiquitous. And especially in foreign countries, it was a bit complicated and expensive to get a SIM card to be able to do that. So I didn't notice, I didn't feel disconnected or homesick, but I've had the experience of being away for, and in foreign places before. So it wasn't quite the issue. And the friars I was with, were very well centered and balanced folks, so that wasn't anything that bothered them either that I could tell. They're just really high quality spiritual guys, not totally spiritual so that they're floating off into but obviously they wouldn't have gone on this trip if they were like that, but rooted in the real Dominicans. That's all I could say. We're rooted, barefoot on the ground, and but really focused on God. So I didn't know. I didn't hear anybody complain either. Oh my God, I haven't seen that. I haven't contacted my Facebook in 2 weeks. It wasn't anything like that.
Oh, okay. And just to be clear, that
although at the airports we did.
That, I was kind of
we
wondering what that experience was actually like, because it's hard to get that experience of being away from all that stuff.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to say. For me, it was a privilege to be able to get that experience. And CRS for a long time was working with our Dominican seminarians, to Dominican students, and many of them went to see CRS and to experience the CRS projects. I don't know if they were doing that when you were there, Luke, when you were in the studio. No? No. Was that before then or after you? When Are you before or after Samuel, for example?
I am before Samuel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't get to go. I mean, they had started, but it was right then. But
Okay.
it was just picking up a little bit. But I was
Yeah.
on my way out.
And now, for some reason, we don't have that connection anymore. Not
It
the
was
same way.
mostly a work of Don and Dave.
Yeah. Don Gergen and Dave Wright. Any other questions or comments?
Father, I have one. What about the clergy there? Is it mostly indigenous or mostly missionary?
Now that's pulling at my, I think that's a good question. It's a mixture. There were foreign clergy, especially since it was relatively new, and because Christians were persecuted. So they do have a seminary, they do have a high school, but it's not. There's not a lot of native clergy, but there are some.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of foreign clergy.
So you never answered where your picture is from.
Where are they from?
Yeah, you said you were going to answer what your background picture is.
Oh, this just reminds me, if you will, of East Timor.
Oh, okay.
Because like this could be the mountain with the little Christ on it overlooking the ocean and the lush green down below. That's about it. It's really pushing them. It's really pushing it a little bit. Yeah, I didn't have a better. I tried some other backgrounds that were actually from pictures from East Timor, but they didn't quite work with as a Zoom background. Anybody else?
Well, how many Dominicans are there, and are there native or indigenous priests?
In East Timor?
Yeah. How many
I don't
Dominicans
think
are there now serving?
There are some Dominican priests. I heard that a group of Filipinos has come down to work as missionaries in East Timor. Well, Filipino Dominicans have actually picked up the banner, if you will, and but originally they were Portuguese Dominicans, and I don't think the Dutch. I think that was, they wouldn't have been too Catholic anyway. So, but now, from what I understand, because I asked somebody that was, I think with the Curia, the Dominican Curia, and they said yes, there was a small foundation now in East Timor in Dili. So.
Did you say there was more than one language spoken?
I didn't, but somebody did. It was in the video, and I can't remember what I don't remember what the other languages are. I could make some sounds and say that that's what it's called, but
I wouldn't believe you.
Ingenuous. But yeah, there are, the people did have different. There was a different look even in this little area on this island. At one end, they appear one way and they speak one way, and another part of the island they have a different language. So, well, let's conclude with a little prayer. And once again, if you have your rice bowls, bring them this weekend or just mail them. And we don't have a hard deadline. Thank you for participating in this. And I hope it was helpful. I hope it was something that sparked a little of your imagination and your in a sense of how you are effective in reaching out to people in far parts of the world. By St. Dominic's, I think, has always been really good with that. So I'm grateful. So let's begin in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Gracious God, we give you thanks for all the gifts that you share with us. We ask you to give us the wisdom and the grace to be able to share those gifts with others in a way that's equitable and in a way that's just, so that we can help to everyone to feel the dignity that they deserve for being your sons and daughters. Bless our community, especially as we recuperate from this COVID pandemic. Bless those in the world who are suffering from droughts and flooding and locusts. Help us to always keep our senses alert to the needs of the least of our brothers and sisters, the ones that are sometimes farthest away and most in need, and keep us from sticking our heads in the sand and becoming just concerned and about our own well-being. We ask for our Blessed Mother's protection and example as we pray. And yeah, stay muted and you can pray to yourself. It's usually a disaster to have at these Zoom meetings to have everybody praying a prayer together, and it just doesn't match up. So, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Thank you. Carol, it's so nice to see you, see your face.